He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. His heart is established. He shall not be afraid until he see his desire upon his enemies.
Well, the amount of times that President Trump sent a message to all of us was off the charts this weekend. He did this through social media, and the timestamps were so good. The MS-13 gig is up. We know too much. The Pope is gone. The WEF Schwab gone. We're going to get all of this today and also share a great Trump card decode by someone out there, Justith Cometh, for us to kind of peruse through and see if we've got some more information on that. So it's going to be good today. Stand by. And here we go. Just want to remind you also, we have an Easter sale starting, and it's continuing on now. He has risen is the code you use. You get a free coin with every purchase. All women's tees are on sale, including the new arrivals. You want to check that out. President Trump said, "Happy Easter to all, including the radical left lunatics who are fighting and scheming so hard to bring murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, the mentally insane, and well-known MS-13 gang members and wife-beaters back into our country. Happy Easter also to the weak and ineffective judges and law enforcement officials who are allowing this sinister attack on our nation to continue. An attack so violent that it will never be forgotten. Sleepy Joe Biden purposefully allowed millions of criminals to enter our country, totally unvetted and unchecked, through an open borders policy that will go down in history as the single most calamitous act ever perpetrated upon America. He was by far our worst and most incompetent president, a man who had absolutely no idea what he was doing. But to him, and to the person that ran and manipulated the auto pen, perhaps our real president, and to all of the people who cheated in the 2020 presidential election in order to get this highly destructive moron elected, I wish you, with great love, sincerity, and affection, a very happy Easter. Boom. That's leadership. That's taking it to them. That's saying we've had enough of their woke junk coming at us constantly, their lies filling the airwaves all the time. And President Trump put out that photo showing the MS-13 fingers with the MS-13 on it that was covered up on social media. If you're looking at your screen, his wife holding up her camera, taking a picture, and she put the hearts over his fingers so we wouldn't know that he had the MS-13 on his fingers. President Trump put this out at 1800. That's 6 o'clock on the 18th of April. This is the hand of the man that the Democrats feel should be brought back to the United States because he is such a fine and innocent person. They said he is not a member of MS-13, even though he's got MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. And two highly respected courts found that he was a member of MS-13, beat up his wife, etc. I was elected to take bad people out of the United States, among other things. I must be allowed to do my job, make America great again. It just so happens that he posts this at 6 p.m., and if you go to number 6 on the Intel board, thanks to 17 Grasshopper, it actually has, why is MS-13 a priority? Could people pay such gangs to kill opponents, and why? How to insulate against exposure. Do you understand this? So maybe the priority is we need to get this guy back into the country, and we need to talk to him to make sure he doesn't give up all the information about how we paid them to kill our opponents. The truth is mind-blowing and cannot be fully exposed. So will we ever get full exposure of what these guys did? Will it ever come out? Well, according to this board, The truth is mind-blowing, and it won't be exposed. These people are evil. Operation Mockingbird. Media's in cahoots with this. And there's his fingers, folks, pushed out on social media. A clear image of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's tattoo. The M is marijuana leaf. The smiley face is S. A cross equals 1. Skull disguised as 3 is 3 MS-13. The Mara Salva skull tattoo is thought to be earned similar to the Aryan brothers' lightning bolts, requiring significant criminal acts like murder to justify a prominent placement like the finger. So the radical lunatic Democrats and their comrades in the fake news media are falsely making Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia out to be a very sweet and innocent person, which is a total, blatant, and dangerous lie. Garcia has been found by 2 separate courts to be a member of the violent killer gang MS-13, was in our country illegally, and is under a deportation order, says President Trump. It is despicable and un-American for liberals and the mainstream media to hate our country so much and be obsessed with protecting criminals instead of working to keep our border, our streets, and our families safe. Those lying to the American people on behalf of violent criminals have to be held responsible by the agencies and the courts. Make America great again. Again, he put this out April 20th for all to see that the media is in cahoots with these politicians. Proving once again this post that he put out on April 18th at 6 p.m., showing us the truth is mind-blowing. Operation Mockingbird, the media. The White House put out the Saturday words of wisdom. If he tattoos like MS-13, beats women like MS-13, and tramples the law like MS-13, then he's probably MS-13. That was put out April 19th by the White House. Rapid Response 47, the sick illegal immigrant MS-13 gang member terrorist Democrats are so bent on defending, what do they have on them? These MS-13 gang members raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. And this is pretty disturbing. I'm going to read some of this to you. So if you don't want little ones to hear what I'm about to read, then you can close their ears. Took out 4 people with machetes in a park on Long Island. That's 4 people. Kidnapped, sexually tortured, and shot a teenage girl in Texas after she insulted their demon god. Killed and mutilated a 17-year-old in Virginia, stabbing him 16 times and cutting off his hands. Beheaded, cut out the heart of a man in Washington, D.C. as part of a satanic ritual. Raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl in California. Sex-trafficked young girls, 12-year-olds. Did terrible things to an 11-year-old girl in Brooklyn while their brother was in the room. Trafficked a 13-year-old in Maryland and Virginia, beating her 26 times on her backside with a baseball bat. Pressured homeless New Yorkers to undergo unnecessary surgeries such as spinal fusion in order to bolster their own fraudulent lawsuits. That's who they go after. That's how this plays out. We've had enough. Tom Homan's had enough.
Senator Van Hollen has obviously got a chance to meet with him, but he had to travel to El Salvador to get any information. Does that concern you at all? I mean, these are people sent by the United, I mean, in his case, sent by the United States, and not even a U.S. senator could get any information about his whereabouts or the condition of his incarceration without actually going down and making the trip to El Salvador himself?
Well, he obviously knew his whereabouts because he went there to see him. But you know what bothers me more than that is a U.S. senator traveled to El Salvador on taxpayer dime to meet with an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat terrorist. I mean, in the meantime, the day before he traveled, an illegal alien was arrested for murder, released to the streets rather than honoring an ICE detainer in his very own state. What concerns me is Van Hollen never went to the border the last 4 years on Joe Biden when he had a 600% increase in sex trafficking in women and children. You have a record number of no-inspected terrorists crossing that border. You had 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl overdose because of the open border. You got over 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey, which is a historic record. What shocks me is he's remained silent on the travesty that happened on our southern border. Many people died. Thousands of people died. I met with hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children that were murdered by illegal alien. How many angel moms and dads has he met in the state of Maryland? That's what concerns me.
Enough already. Why do we have to constantly go on the airwaves, the leadership, to talk to the Mockingbird mainstream sick media? Why do they constantly protect this guy? What's really going on? President Trump had to send our military down there to protect us.
The soldiers from Fort Carson, Colorado, using thermal and infrared cameras on the striker, watching for the tiniest movements along the border.
Even like a little mouse.
Up to a little mouse?
Yeah, up to a little mouse, like up to like a mile out.
With the strikers and soldiers, President Trump is creating a border barrier that is more than just a wall. He has now authorized the military to take control of a 60-foot strip of federal land along the border, stretching from California to New Mexico. Now, migrants would be crossing into a military installation. It would allow soldiers to make apprehensions, a job that, until now, has been reserved for...
That's what we voted for. Taking over our border. We've had enough. It's great to see. This is going to help us with our future also. Well, folks, if you heard of a gut check in the Marine Corps or military, it's to check to see if you've got good abs. But, sometimes we need one physically, a real gut healing. I've been experiencing wonderful results with my gut and overall health with Kimchi One. We have a war going on in our gut, and we can strengthen that immune system there. 70 to 80% of the immune system is actually stored in your gut. Probiotic-rich kimchi can help you fight bacterial infections, viruses, common illnesses, and serious chronic conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, skin conditions like eczema, urinary tract infections, and yeast infections. Kimchi is full of ingredients known to stimulate healthy immune function, soothe digestive organs, nourish the gut, fight bacteria, and heal. 1 to 3 servings of kimchi a day decreases obesity and positively affects thyroid health. It also stabilizes your blood sugar. So get your Kimchi One today in the description box below. 25% off your entire order with promo code AWK. That's promo code AWK. You get up to 50% off plus free shipping when you call in to order at 888-317-9941. Get your Kimchi One today in the description box below. So we only have 2 justices on the Supreme Court willing to deport foreign terrorists without individual court hearings for millions of Biden-era invaders. Real constitutional crisis. There's 12.3 million deportations and 0 injunctions with Clinton, 10.3 million deportations with Bush and 0 injunctions, 5.3 million deportations with Obama, 0 injunctions, 100,000 deportations with President Trump, 30 injunctions. We're getting tired of it. So more information that's been coming out. The FBI started the Russia collusion hoax, most believe, in truth. The evidence has increasingly pointed to the CIA. And now former CIA counterterrorism chief of Pakistan, John Kirkow, says, I always believed it was Obama CIA director John Brennan who was responsible for the origin of Russiagate. There's been rumors going around that they can't find this guy, John Brennan, the Muslim. Here's a reminder from Special Counsel Durham.
There was intelligence information that was received at virtually the same time that the information came from the Australians, within a day or two. That intelligence included information that there was a purported plan designed by one of Mrs. Clinton's foreign policy advisors to create a scandal tying Donald Trump to the Russians. That's the essence of the intelligence as contained in the declassified information.
Did the president receive this intelligence?
On August 3rd of 2016, then Director Brennan had briefed the president, vice president, director of national intelligence, the FBI, the attorney general, and others.
When you say the FBI, you mean Mr. Comey?
He had, on August 3rd, it was conducted at the White House. It was Director Comey himself.
So Mr. Comey knew about this. President Obama knew about this. Vice President Biden knew about this. But it wasn't provided to the agents on the case or provided to the secret FISA court. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why wasn't it?
No, we can tell you what the facts are. People can draw their own conclusions from that.
About the Papadopoulos comments at the bar that were used as justification for this whole thing, what would the FBI have learned had it looked into this information honestly?
If before opening Crossfire Hurricane they had checked their own files and communicated with other intelligence agencies and the like, they would have found that there was nothing at that time in their files that would corroborate the information, the suggestion of a suggestion, and that the Russians might provide some kind of assistance. There's nothing in their files that would corroborate that.
The Steele dossier was entered in the congressional record. Was it true?
I'm sorry, the Steele dossier?
The Steele dossier was entered into our congressional record. Was it true?
There is not a single substantive piece of information in the dossier that has ever been corroborated by the FBI or, to my knowledge, anyone else.
The lies will come out. President Trump continues to bring up more information. Hopefully Russia AMD Ukraine instead of and. He put an M in there. We're going to show you why in a minute. Will make a deal this week. Both will then start to do big business with the United States of America, which is thriving and making a fortune. And make a fortune. So why did he put the AMD instead of an AND? Well, you just count the letters. Hopefully Russia, AMD, Ukraine will make a deal. He posts that at 1615. 1615 on the cue board shows a bunch of Qs. What's interesting is the 17th letter, M, was supposed to be N, showing us again that he's communicating with us. Great things are going to be coming. Hold on. Hold on tight. It's amazing, right? The 17th letter, Q. 1615 posted with a bunch of Qs on the Intel board. It's not a coincidence, folks. Getting back to what we talked about earlier, the justice cometh. Woke up with this on my mind. A thread. Very interesting thread. We talked about the Trump card on Jordan's show the other night. Trump card. So I've been thinking, Q said double meanings exist, right? We know the Trump card physically is a financial path to citizenship. But with recent events, I think that Trump has another meaning for it. SCOTUS, Supreme Court, set the predicate that when an illegal is in prison and is awaiting trial, that they cannot be deported. That's a lot of people. And also, POTUS has said numerous times he is not happy with the current rate of deportations. You don't truly understand the scope of how long it would take to get all the illegals. Just that Biden let in alone the illegals that were already here before Biden. So how do we move around that? Since we're seeing a blockade weekly from the courts, which most injunctions have been shot down by appellate courts. Remember the declaration of the emergency of the border day one of Trump's presidency? Well, he wrote that in 90 days he would decide to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. You must learn not to memory hole things and take note. Let's look first at what the Act of 1807 does. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is a U.S. federal law codified in 10 U.S.C. 251-255 that empowers the president to deploy federal military forces and federalized National Guard troops within the United States to suppress insurrections, rebellions, or domestic violence, or to enforce federal law when local authorities cannot or will not do so. The key points. Number one, purpose. Allows the president to address situations where public order is disrupted due to rebellion, insurrection, or lawlessness that obstructs federal law enforcement. Number two, authority. The president can act unilaterally without state or local consent in cases of rebellion or when requested by a state legislator or governor if the legislature cannot convene. Congress is out of session. Number three, scope. Permits the use of federal troops or militia to restore order, protect property, federal property, or enforce federal laws. Federalized National Guard. Historical context, enacted to address domestic unrest such as the 1794 Whiskey Rebellion and used in various instances, including during the Civil War, Reconstruction, and Civil Rights era. Limitations. The act requires the president to issue a proclamation ordering insurgents to disperse before deploying forces. It has been criticized for its broad discretion, raising concerns about potential misuse. Trump has done this on social media. The amendments modified over time, including in 1878 by the Posse Comitatus Act, which limits military involvement in domestic law enforcement unless authorized by laws like the Insurrection Act. The act remains a rare but significant tool for federal intervention in domestic crises, but often sparking debate over civil liberties and executive powers. So, you see, 90 days from January 20th is today, my friends. Today. 20th of April, that'd be yesterday. So the Delta, pay attention to wording as it's important. Trump card coming. I doubt we see any action, but rather Monday on the subject. That would be today as of recording, but no action on Sunday. Did Q ever speak about the National Guard being activated? So a national emergency at the southern border of the United States within 90 days of the date of this proclamation. The Secretary of Defense and Secretary of Homeland Security shall submit a joint report to the President about the conditions at the southern border of the United States. Interesting, because they could include and invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. Trap card played? Nice work, Q. Interesting, because the Trump card coming. When was that posted? April 20th, 2018. April 20th was yesterday. The Delta is amazing. Good catch. Let's examine some Q posts of the National Guard, shall we? Let's examine the big one, post 22. Who controls the National Guard? President of the United States when federalized. If the Insurrection Act is invoked, you will start to see National Guard called up to cities to carry out deportations. This is key. Remember what we said on the show the other night, what he said, what we're reading from, about the Marines? The President of the United States can activate without congressional approval. The President can directly control the Marines. What conditions must be satisfied for this to happen? Insurrection, invasion, the Insurrection Act of 1807. What presidents used this act in the past? Let's look. Andrew Jackson, 1831, to address the nullification crisis in South Carolina. Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant in 1870s to combat the Ku Klux Klan violence. Rutherford B. Hayes in 1878 to address the Great Railroad Strike. Grover Cleveland, 1894 to break the Pullman Strike. Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1957 to enforce desegregation in Little Rock, Arkansas. John F. Kennedy, 1962 and 3, to enforce desegregation in Mississippi and Alabama against the state resistance. George H.W. Bush, 1992, to address the Los Angeles riots following the Rodney King verdict. So we have historical precedent, don't we? POTUS loves him some Andrew Jackson, doesn't he? It's all there. And number 22. I'm going to show you some more of this in a moment. First, I wanted to remind you folks that we're at amweknow.com. We love this website. You can find all of our social media there. You can sign up for our newsletter. I highly recommend you go there, put in your name and email, and you'll receive updates from us. Very, very simple. And also wanted to just remind you that you can go to shop.amweknow.com and get our gear. Remember, we have the free coin with every purchase right now. He has risen. Use that code. And we have all women's tees on sale, including new arrivals. All types of goodies there. And we hope that you guys check that out. Here's more great pictures of Patriots wearing our gear. So back to the justice coming. Let's look at the 11.3, shall we? It's been widely debated to what it is, but let's think war, the war manual. Let's take a look at the Law of War Manual. Look at 11.3, end of the military occupation, end of operation. Let's see here, friends. POTUS stated many times we were an occupied country. Has he not? Because of all the illegals. End of operation, once that's verified. Have we seen this? Yes. April 3rd of this year, matter of fact, by President of the United States himself. I believe the POTUS signaled 11.3 right here in his Truth Social post on April 3rd. Right here. The operation is over. The patient lived and is healing. The prognosis is that the patient will be far stronger, bigger, better, and more resilient than ever before. Make America great again. There's that April 3rd post. End of occupation and duration of GC obligations. And then think about it logically, folks. The only way is the military fully controlled, save and spread. Once 11.3 verifies as first marker, the biggest advanced drop on the poll. Wow. See here, the only way is the military. You seeing it now? With all the judicial blockades we are seeing, is it all making sense to you now why President of the United States must use the military? Why he must invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807 and has historical precedent to do so? Let's take a look at the big one. Post 34. In order to carry out the Insurrection Act of 1807, a state military control will be needed. Huh? Also, we will see increased military activity during this times in our cities, won't we? Do not fear. They will be there for your protection. Once more point, though, let's continue on, shall we? So, just like this, any military scene on Q drop number 43 is for your protection as well as to demonstrate our resolve. Watch for confirmations tomorrow. Remember this post from earlier in the month, big month already, huh? But let's note that A is April, okay? A in the target brackets. These target brackets right here. Remember the A target brackets right there. So you're looking at your keyboard, the military start. Invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807 would start a massive military movement, wouldn't it? So April A, IG report, Sessions public attack. A, arrests. A, Awan. Border. Wall. It's all there. Post 128. This is the map, folks. The first 129 Q posts refer to the map. Let's look through this post. The crumbs. Remember, the post 2 sections above in my thread. These crumbs are not meant to scare anyone, but inform. Operators are active. Operations are underway. Invoking the Insurrection Act would make an operation go underway. Okay, time to move to my summary. Whew, that was a long one. Operators are active. There it is on the keyboard. Attached graphic is correct. Okay, to summarize, Trump has stated publicly the Trump card is coming. He said it numerous times on Air Force One to the media. The Trump card could have multiple meanings, as I've laid it out here. If we truly want to get our country back and invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807, which has been used several times over in history, the military is going to be the only way to do it. We have so many blockades that are preventing the president from cleaning house. Remember, Trump told Zelensky, I have all the cards. From those of you that don't know the Trump card, no other card in the deck holds more value than the Trump card. None can beat it. No blockades, no judicial injunctions, nothing. Nothing can stop what's coming, nothing. Have a happy Easter, ladies and gentlemen, as he has risen. Our path to glory was laid out on this day of joy and reverence. And my friends, don't forget to follow the White Rabbit. The Trump card's coming. There it is, 4/20/2018. Way to go. Great post by the Justice Cometh. Gotta love it. Some other big things going on when it comes to these illegals. Lawfare. Federal agents are raiding homes of Democrat judges harboring illegal terrorists. Tren de Aragua terrorists. For example, federal agents arrested a Venezuelan Tren de Aragua member at Judge Joel Cano's home in New Mexico. The Democrat judge resigned soon after. Wow. The exposure is just phenomenal. More exposure. Confirmed the official Senate hearing. Texas A&M Public University is being secretly funded by Qatar, and they are sending all their intellectual property overseas.
We did a report on Texas A&M. We found $1.3 billion in undocumented money between the Qatari regime and Texas A&M. We found 502 research projects. Texas A&M gave all of their intellectual property rights to the Qatari regime. 58 projects we flagged that have military dual-use purpose. 13 have nuclear research dual-use purposes. Qatar has very good relations with the Iranian Revolutionary Regime, Hamas, and the Taliban. At Cornell University, we found $2 billion in unreported, undocumented funding going from Qatar to Cornell. K through 12, we just published a report. Hundreds of millions of dollars going to create curriculum across the United States of America for children that remove Jews and Christians from curriculum about the Middle East.
How about that? Qatar has very good relations with the Iranian Revolutionary Regime, Hamas, and the Taliban. At Cornell University, $2 billion in unreported, undocumented funding going from Qatar to Cornell K through 12. Hundreds of millions of dollars going to create curriculum across the United States of America for children that removed Jews and Christians from curriculum about the Middle East. Very interesting, isn't it? Another post by President Trump, a gift from China in the Pacific Ocean showing all the trash that is flowing into our country. It is sickening what they have done to us physically and more. And of course, nothing greater than the lab leak information, the true origins being released by the White House on their website. The proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2 publication, which was used repeatedly by public health officials and the media to discredit the lab leak theory, was prompted by Dr. Fauci to push the preferred narrative that COVID-19 originated naturally. Can you believe that? If you're looking at your screen, there's a screenshot showing the White House is finally starting to expose the lab leak. And of course, nothing greater than having RFK Jr. at the forefront to expose all this. I'll play that in a moment. Folks, you can start your journey to sober living with a faith-based program featuring brain restoration formula from the New Spring Wellness Center.
Because you see people at their worst time going through different things in their lives, whether it's relationships, whether it's finances, whatever it is. But when they come out of that, there's no better feeling.
Addiction recovery takes more than just time. It takes energy, clarity, and hope. And no matter how broken you feel, healing is possible. And there's a way to restore your brain, your body, and your spirit. At New Spring Wellness, your brain restoration program addresses the physiological changes in the brain caused by substance use, aging, and chronic stress.
It literally, those cravings for me, it was a constant. Every second I was awake, I would wake up in the morning, okay, what do I need to get done today till I can go get my alcohol? And it got to the point where I started drinking earlier and earlier, and to it where it just controlled my life.
Their brain restoration protocol reduces cravings, supports mental clarity, and restores energy, giving you the strength to take back control. At New Spring Wellness, they approach recovery with both a medical and faith-based approach. Through Jesus Christ, they find hope, redemption, and the strength to overcome. With brain restoration and faith in Him, you can step into a new beginning. Your past does not define you. Through Christ, all things are made new. Give them a call at 573-577-3400 or go in the description box below to newspringwellnesscenter.com/and we know. Start your journey to sober living today.
I don't look into Anthony Fauci's head. I don't look into Bill Gates' head. I don't say he did this because he was greedy or because he was manipulative. I just lay out what they did, and the story speaks for itself. And, you know, it's a story of really of people involved in really terrible, terrible, immoral, homicidal criminal behavior. And using a position in government that he had for 50 years without any election to clamp down these totalitarian controls that were not science-based and that everybody now admits there was no science. In fact, yesterday, the chief attorney for FDA admitted that there was no reason. He admitted because he lost the case in court against a doctor, but there was no reason to discourage people from taking ivermectin. Ivermectin was a very, very devastating cure for COVID. It literally obliterated COVID. And by depriving people of ivermectin, many people, millions of people around the globe died. And they didn't need to. There were cures for COVID from day one, and very effective cures. Right. But they didn't want that. They wanted the vaccine only. And there's a rule, a little-known federal rule that they were all aware of, which said that you cannot issue an emergency use authorization for a vaccine if there is an existing remedy that has already been approved for any use. So if they admitted that hydroxychloroquine or famotidine or ivermectin or any of the 25 existing therapeutic drugs that were very effective against COVID, if they admitted that any of them were effective, the whole vaccine project would have fallen apart. They couldn't have done it. And so they decided that they were going to pretend that there was no cure except for the vaccine. And they gave people a product that was not properly tested, and then now you have a whole generation of kids that has now, got myocarditis, these terrible heart problems in young athletic boys. You're seeing so many kids now drop dead on playing fields. Right. And that we never saw anything like this before. On average, it was, I think, 29 a month globally, athletes who died on the field. And we were getting down to hundreds a month now. Right. And it's, and there still has to be a reckoning. The mainstream media hasn't caught up with the science. But the science is out there now, and it's devastating.
Here's a picture, an accurate picture of Fauci, looking like a rat, demon. Hey, NPR, making sure you saw our new site, covid.gov, from Anna Kelly. NPR put out on the December of 2020. A new poll finds 40% of respondents believe in a baseless conspiracy theory that the coronavirus was created in a lab in China. There is zero evidence for this. Scientists say the virus was transmitted to humans from another species. Yeah, the lies are coming out. The White House put, number one, the virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. Number two, data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. 3, Wuhan is a home in China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research, gene-altering and organism supercharging at inadequate biosafety levels. 4, Wuhan Institute of Virology. Researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at the wet market. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of natural origin, it would have already surfaced. But it hasn't. So they're confessing. They admit the virus has a biological characteristic. This thing was engineered. It was controlled release, not some random bat to human. They're hinting at a cover-up without saying it outright. It's a smoking gun. Lab workers falling ill with the mystery virus months early screamed ground zero. Point 5, science should have found a natural origin by now, but it hasn't. Why? Because there isn't one. They're admitting the natural origin story is fake. The White House just cracked open Pandora's box, nudging us toward the realization that the pandemic wasn't an act of nature, but a manufactured catastrophe. We have a feeling they're testing the waters, seeing how much truth we can handle before the full story blows up. The Trump administration declared the SARS-CoV-2 as a man-made pathogen leaked from a lab in China, covered up by Fauci and others. Bioweapon killed 7+ million people. People have to swing for this. There's no other way. It has to be done. And they killed us using the jabs. 132 vaccinated Canadian doctors gone. That was 2 years ago, according to Sudden and Expected. So the carnage count will surely now be more. And they scroll through and show you all these doctors as they find one at a time. Check out the actual dollar amount the holier-than-thou senators took from Big Pharma. Should be illegal to vote on the health of America when you are owned by Big Pharma. Bernie took over $23 million. Pocahontas, nearly $11 million. Raphael Watnock, nearly $15 million. Patty Murray, Tammy Baldwin, Michael Bennett, Tim Kaine, Christopher Murphy, Maggie Hassan, Ed Markey. All these guys on the list. Pause your screen, you can read them all. Now let's get into China.
For everybody that still thinks that China is unfazed during this tariff war, look on YouTube for the page China Observer. These are a group of Chinese individuals that own that site. They live in China, and they are telling you what their media and what our media isn't telling our citizens. Because according to a lot of the people that watch my videos, oh, China's winning, they ain't being affected the way the United States are. These individuals are sharing firsthand videos of their manufacturing facilities, of their docks, which are filled with hundreds of thousands of cargo containers that were brought back to the ports of China. Hundreds of manufacturing facilities that employed thousands of people completely shut down. They're putting recordings up. They are showing these CEOs, owners of these businesses that had just finished constructing multi-billion-dollar manufacturing facilities completely shut down without any employee in sight. They're even reporting that tens of thousands of Chinese citizens are now unemployed due to the tariffs. Let alone their housing market crashes. Now all of their workers are jobless. They're even sharing testimonials of down to their janitors, down to the people that clean their shops, their warehouses, saying, we just finished cleaning the facility for the last time and now we have no more work. Contracts that many of these businesses had with American assets have been completely revoked. Millions of orders have been canceled and complete warehouses stocked to capacity with supplies that were returned right when the United States hit China with the 145% tariff. Thousands of cargo ships returning back to the Chinese ports with goods that were meant to be delivered to the United States. Now there's nowhere to send these things. But what is happening is the Chinese president and government does not want to show weakness. But yet, they just recently announced that China will no longer raise any other tariffs, even if the United States is to retaliate. Why do you think that is? Because they're feeling the pressure that they're not telling anybody about.
Pretty good. We're watching big changes. President Trump said hopefully Russia and Ukraine will make a deal this week. He says the golden rule of negotiating and success. He who has the gold makes the rules. Thank you. Then he said the businessmen who criticize tariffs are bad at business, but really bad at politics. They don't understand or realize that I'm the greatest friend that American capitalism has ever had. And so he also said, since our announcement of Liberation Day, many world leaders and business executives have come to me asking for relief from tariffs. It's good to see that the world knows we are serious, because we are. They must right the wrongs of decades of abuse, but it won't be easy for them. We must rebuild the wealth of our great country and create true reciprocity. But for those who want the easiest path, come to America and build in America. Blueprint showed us this. Dow Jones Industrial Average, 40,212.71 US dollars. The market closed at 40.2K. For 2 years under Biden, the market didn't break 36.2K and crashed to a 28.7K low. The highest mark under Biden was 45K in his last month of office. Then it plummeted again. In just 2 months and 3 weeks since Trump's inauguration, the lowest mark is 37.6K, and the highest mark is 44.8K. Beware panicans. Non-tariff cheating, says President Trump. Currency manipulation. Number 2, VATs which act as tariffs and export subsidies. Number 3, dumping below cost. Number 4, export subsidies and other government subsidies. Number 5, protective agricultural standards, e.g. no genetically engineered corn in the EU. Number 6, protective technical standards, Japan's bowling ball test. Number 7, counterfeiting, piracy, and IP theft, over $1 trillion a year. And number 8, transshipping to evade tariffs. All this we brought up, folks, yesterday. If you missed our interview with Dr. Kirk Elliott, we talked about the financial meltdown will cause metals to go up. Gold up 16% year to date. China tariffs are way up. Also, 2FBC, the plan. I played Q, part one of the videos there for you guys to watch on this broadcast. It's not just the interview with Dr. Kirk Elliott anymore. I try to bring up current events that are actually happening, and we have talked a little bit about Easter and put an Easter message together yesterday. We hope you checked it out. Remember, with all this precious metal stuff that's happening, this biblical movement, it's important to reach out to Dr. Kirk Elliott at amweknow.com/gold. You can have the same conversations that I would have with him, and we talked about this at length. It was absolutely amazing.
Military base is changing, like in front of our very eyes.
My goodness. And so we had a great talk. Wanted you guys to check that out. It was yesterday. Wanted to move into, again, what's going on in the Hollywood world. We had a reminder for those drops on April 20th, 2018, from yesterday, the deltas, April 20th to 2025, 7 years ago. We were told Mack is naming names from the Nexium trial. Allison Mack, remember that? The Nexium cult. Remember leader Keith? Big names in Hollywood, government, local, federal, proof, the Standard Hotel, helicopter crash, all related. Future will prove past. Adam Schiff. Feeling okay today? Why is the Mexican border, Long Beach port, so important? The border. TikTok LLC, and there's Marina Abramovich, the witch. All these folks had their hands in trafficking of children and more. We're also reminded from the April 20th timestamp from 7 years ago. Look who Maggie's mom is friends with. Who's Maggie? If you're looking at your screen, Obama's got his hands all over Maggie. And we were shown this on the board, the Intel board that they were scared of because it was proving, once again, some strange things going on with him. Why was Maggie always with Obama in all these pictures? At the age of 10, a little bit older. Really strange. The Q was telling us what was going on. Why then was Maggie's mom hanging out with the Comet Con pizza guy? You can't imagine the size of this, we were told, from Pizzagate. So this girl's mom is hanging out with these freaks at a pizza place. And they were exposed. Bigger than you could imagine. POTUS warning shot. Mac. Remember we talked about Mac. Allison Mack's naming names. Why is Hussein pictured with the Hollywood child many times? That Hollywood child there. How many pics can you find of them together? Age 10, 11, and 12. Interesting, because I saw this from Damon Wilson, who played Lamont on the old TV series Sanford and Son, explaining why he had to leave Hollywood and how he would not partake in the rituals. I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to get into the Pope comms, okay? Here we go.
Disclosure, 1982, I went full-time into the ministry. The Lord called me full-time into the ministry. I preached before thousands in Africa, thousands in China, in every city and hamlet in America. How old are you?
I'm 35.
I got to suit your age. That's why you don't know. I thought maybe you did your homework before you interviewed me. Hollywood, I've never had anything to do with any kind of clique. I'm not a cliquish person.
Right. And I assume that.
Followers. When I grew up, I had the kids followed me. They followed my dress style. They followed the coolness, the way I walked. When I was in the war, I was a leader. I ain't never followed nobody. So these cliques, I could tell you things about people you named that the little Fruit Loops. They bend over billies. You cannot make it to the top in that industry without selling your soul.
What do you know about the brother that just came forward, Christian Keys? You heard of this young actor? He just came forward and said that he was sexually harassed by a billionaire Hollywood person in power. There's assumptions of names. Is that something that happened in your industry? Like, were you ever, respectfully, I'm asking you as...
Again, here you go. My industry. It's not my industry. I'm a Broadway actor. I came to Hollywood. Wait a minute. You didn't do your homework. I'm going to tell you. I came to California. I did a film in Canada called The Dealing or the Berkeley to Boston 40 Brick Bag Lost Blues. I went back to Broadway and I was at the Public Theater. Al Pacino was down there. The late Ron O'Neal was down there. You had a lot of actors that became famous that were down there working for Joe Papp in the Village at that theater. It's renowned. And Walter Mirisch from Mirisch Studio, from the Mirisch brothers, came to New York, and he cast me in my first major motion picture, The Organization, with Sidney Poitier. And that's why when I first came to California, we shot it in San Francisco, and people saw the dailies and they liked my work. And so I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to move out there because I'm getting a lot of offers and I don't want to be doing this bi-coastal thing. So I moved to California and I did Mission Impossible and a couple of TV spots, and then All in the Family. And then I got a phone call from Bud Yorkin and he asked me if I wanted to do a series with Red Fox. So I've never been a part of any of that nonsense. I don't respect those people. I don't care about that. I'm, you know, I told you I had connections. Nobody was going to say nothing to me.
I get it. And it made me think when you just said kind of the comment about some of the people that we've known in the industry and what they may have to do to get to the top. Can you give me...
All of them. All of them. You name your biggest black actors, you name your biggest white actors, you name your biggest female Latino actresses, they all have to do it.
They all have to do it. Mac's naming names from the NXIVM trial. Big names in Hollywood, government, local, and federal. Proof. The Standard Hotel. The information's continuing to fly out. So, the Pope's death falls on the delta of Drop 1231, which says on April 21st, 2018, what will next week hold? Mother of all bombs. Q. Many people are showing the picture of one pope on the left and a different looking pope on the right after he was supposedly ill. And there's J.D. Vance meeting with him with a yellow tie on. Interesting, because the 17 Absolute Redux 76 met with Absolute Storm, and they discussed Vice President Vance's visit to the Vatican and meeting with the Pope. They pointed out his tie color yellow, and Stormy made mention of its feeling like Vance was saying goodbye. It comes not long after President Trump gave the 5-5 hand gesture, thanking McCain. The Pope, of course, gave the same gesture after being released from the hospital. Of course, Grasshopper jumped in right away. So Pope Francis dies at age 88, 91 days into the Trump admin version 2. Do you know both drop 91 on the Q board and 88 mention Godfather 3? Remember that We Are Q drop? Fighting the corrupt elements of the Vatican in Godfather 3. Number 88, his age, 10 days, darkness, SA 1, USA 2, US 2, Asia 3, EU 4. The Great Awakening, Godfather 3, military operations and operators in the United States. And then you've got Drop 91 that also says Godfather 3. Fighting the corrupt elements of the Vatican in Godfather 3 is on Drop 1951. We are Q. Amazing how these things tie together. Dr. Russell McGregor reminded us P equals Pope, C equals chair. The chair serves the master. Who is the master? Pope equals chair. Therefore, the Pope serves the master, and the master is the Rothschilds. Q998. Something's going on. Other big names dropping out. The World Economic Forum founder and chairman Klaus Schwab resigns with immediate effect. Gone. Pope, gone. The New World Order being dismantled one day at a time. To those turning on Trump, says Blueprint, you lack the willingness to see through this immediate transition to view the long game being played in front of you. And this is good. Most of you guys listen to me. You already know, and you're not turning on Trump, but it's good for us to hear this so we can talk to our friends and family, okay? So I'm going to read this to you. You learned nothing over the last 10 years. I cannot imagine being in the exact same place I was 10 years ago in the area of my life, especially as it relates to my political comprehension. Your inability to understand the purpose in and vision for the nationalist mission underway is why you're a liability to yourself. Spoiler, America holds all the cards. We have the largest economy in the world, and everyone wants a piece. Many nations need access to our markets to survive. We are the dominant global power, and this admin will not back down. That's what President Trump promised, and we voted for. When the dust settles, DJT will deliver a transformative win for all Americans as promised. We are resetting the imbalance in our global orientation to benefit all Americans. Tax-paying Americans have been exploited to finance the world for decades, while we slip further and further into irreversible debt slavery created by corrupt politicians who print our money at will and stick us, the working tax-paying American, with ever-growing interest and debt. Fixing what many argue is the greatest threat to national security requires significant disruption and brave determination. This indomitable, determined disruption is uncomfortable for those who've never taken the time to truly understand its need or vision to fix it. For those of us that have, we couldn't be cheering President Trump any harder. When we win in the trade war just as we did in DJT's first term, and the markets rage back better than ever, make sure to sing Trump's praises and admit you completely lost the plot. When the income tax and IRS are eliminated and the Treasury restores its constitutional function, make sure to sing Trump's praises and admit you completely lost the plot. When America returns to a weighted, sound money system and the value of our dollar explodes, and average Americans are richer than ever before, make sure to sing Trump's praises and admit you completely lost the plot. Then evolve with the rest of us and don't look back. And I would say, add to that, sing the praises of our Heavenly Father who uses leadership to make all this happen. President Trump reminded us, again, we are together going to make America bigger, better, stronger, wealthier, healthier, and more religious than it has ever been before. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you. What an amazing journey we've been on together with so many for so many years. Every day is just filled with your energy that you guide and direct us with. The power of your Holy Spirit is so amazing. We ask that you continue to help those that are in doubt. Help us as we continue to talk to those who need information to help them understand how this is all working. And we ask that you continue to protect those on the front lines, the fighters, fighting with the mainstream media, the ones that are fighting against those who are trying to destroy this nation, trying to bring MS-13 back. May they be exposed and arrested. May these that have taken advantage of us for so long be finally exposed for all of us to see. You see it all, you understand it all, and you played this out perfectly to wake up the masses across this earth. We are truly thankful. We say and ask all this and pray in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen and amen. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a great remainder of your week. We have an interview we're going to release tomorrow with some more information and news. Looking forward to that, and then I'll be traveling on Wednesday. Hope that you guys will continue to keep us in prayer as we move forward each and every day. We thank you so much for your support. It's absolutely amazing. For now, this is LT saying Semper Fi with them we know, signing out.
He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. His heart is established. He shall not be afraid until he see his desire upon his enemies.